Ok.
Francesca, io penso più o meno, insomma, aspettiamo ancora un minuto.
Sì,
va?
quando ci siamo, mi dici
Minuto o
tu.
due, perché qui con questa faccenda del remoto è sempre difficile capire come
Sì, quando
siamo.
sono rientrati tutti.
Sì, probabilmente non erano mai usciti, ma qui.
Vittorio, ti posso chiedere se mi senti bene?
Io sento bene, sì.
Ok, perché l'altro giorno mi hanno detto che invece c'erano dei problemi di audio, avevo paura che fossero le cuffie.
No, io sento molto chiaro.
Perfetto, ok.
Quello che io vedo sullo schermo, vedo la mia faccia,
Sì.
ecco, no, va bene, dipende da che finestre apri.
No, ho condiviso tutto lo schermo perché poi volevo far vedere anche qualche pagina.
No, quello sì, hai detto, se fai vedere qualche hands-on, certamente
Esatto,
interessante.
io posso prendere più o meno quanto?
Quello
Un'oretta,
che
un'oretta
ti
e
serve,
mezza?
quello che ti serve,
Ok, fino
un'oretta,
alla pausa pranzo, diciamo.
Sì, comunque no, se finisci presto io comunque ho sempre argomenti in serbo per questi ragazzi che ci stanno ascoltando, ragazzi e ragazzi, sono più ragazze che ragazzi.
E giusto, visto che avete fatto le presentazioni, poi magari per non perdere troppo tempo, forse mi puoi dire tu di
Ma
che estrazione sono.
la maggior parte sono laurea magistrale, la maggior parte ho laurea magistrale in corso o già fatta.
Mhm.
E la maggior parte sono di estrazione umanistica, quindi diciamo magistrale, diciamo non di discipline computeristiche. Una, io non più, mi ricordo più i nomi, comunque visto che ci sentono, qualcuno aveva detto che invece ha una laurea in informatica. Non so se ci sente, ce lo vuol dire chi è? No, nessuno. E ti dico, per cui diciamo, in questa presentazione c'è la maggior parte di estrazione umanistica, alcuni però laureati anche in informatica umanistica, quindi questo anche come magistrale, quindi questo significa che un po' più di esposizione all'informatica c'è stata, mentre invece diciamo, chi ha sia la triennale che la magistrale di stampo umanistico, di computer, diciamo, di computer science ne ha vista assai poca.
Ok. No, ma appunto questa presentazione non sarà di natura troppo tecnica, quindi direi che forse
No, ma direi che
è abbastanza
vanno.
un buon complimento anche, invece ho visto che tu hai presentato proprio le nozioni del web semantico stamattina, giusto?
Sì,
È una cosa un
diciamo
po' più
io, vabbè,
tosta
questo era stato fin
sicuramente.
dall'inizio un po', un po' più, orientato proprio ai calcolatori, proprio per vedere di colmare quello che io chiamo la terminologia di base, perché sennò poi si rischia che appunto si va avanti, uno dice web, ma il link è open data, ma non si sa poi esattamente cosa ci sia dietro. Io direi di cominciare, come dico io, chi è assente alzi la mano così lo vediamo subito, e visto che nessuno alza la mano possiamo cominciare in inglese.
Okay, so let's now switch to English and let me start with the presentation. Vittorio, can you confirm me that it is visible in full screen?
Yes, it's visible
Okay,
on the
perfect.
screen, the registration is going on, so everything is fine.
Perfect. So first of all, a small...
No, I will say, introduce yourself, because
okay, yes.
just before introducing CLARIN, introduce yourself.
Yeah. It was exactly what I was about to do. So my name is Francesca Frontini. I am a researcher at the Institute for Computational Linguistics in Pisa, which is an institute of the CNR, the Consiglio Nazionale delle Ricerche in Italy. We are also located in Pisa. And I am going to present you an introduction to the CLARIN infrastructure and of CLARIN IT, the national node of this infrastructure, which is also based at our institute, but is also a consortium of various national entities. And the coordinator, Monica Monachini, the national coordinator, is also a researcher at our institute, and she couldn't be here this morning, but she prepared this presentation with me, and she apologizes for the last-minute inconvenience that could not allow her to be here as well. So it is really a pleasure for me to be here today, because we have a long-standing collaboration with the University of Pisa and with the other colleagues that are also from CNR. The purpose of today's presentation. So first of all, I want to apologize if I run a bit fast. Do not hesitate to put comments, questions in the chat. Yesterday, I had to present CLARIN in 3 minutes, so I might be geared towards rushing a bit. But I actually want to take it a bit easier and to make things very clear. So why? Because actually CLARIN ERIC and CLARINit are an infrastructure that is at your service, so to say, at the service of researchers and especially young researchers. So I may show things that may not be 100% clear to you today, but you are kindly invited, warmly invited to get in touch, ask us about what this infrastructure can do to you. So without further ado, I will just, so this is the plan for today. We will first talk about CLARIN ERIC, then about the national services, and finally we will just showcase some of the services that can be used. So what is actually a resource, research infrastructure? You know that infrastructures normally in real life are things such as streets or bridges, etc. But if you have to think of a research infrastructure, the first thing that you probably should think about is a library. Okay, a library has been for millennia the first research infrastructure. Nowadays, there are a lot of research infrastructures in many different domains. Another more recent one is CERN. So where you can, researchers from many different countries can carry out experiments using the same facilities, okay? So in the humanities, there are a few infrastructures, and CLARIN is the Common Language Resources and Technology Infrastructure. You can, if you want, already visit the link. It's clarin.eu, and it is an infrastructure dedicated to all these disciplines and researchers that either have the language as their object of study or are dealing with topics of research that are grounded in language. So more concretely, research infrastructures in Europe are supported especially by specific European programs, and they are organized as ERICs, which means European Research Infrastructure Consortium, and they are legal entities. From the practical point of view, this means that each member state can decide to join and support, also with in-kind and in-cash contribution, one or many ERICs in several different disciplines, because they think that it is important for the national research communities to have access to these services. As far as CLARIN is concerned, it is an ERIC since 2012, and basically it has it has reached the landmark status in 2016, so it means that it is a well-established infrastructure which is already able to offer services. And what are these services? First and foremost, it is to provide easy and sustainable access for scholars in the social sciences and humanities, and also beyond, to digital language data in written, spoken, video, or multimodal form, and to advanced tools to discover, explore, exploit, annotate, analyze, combine them wherever they are located. The access to these tools and resources should be as easy as possible. So in most cases, CLARIN tools are made available with an open license, so everyone can access them. But should they be protected resources, they should be accessible to the researchers from member states via single sign-on. What does it mean? We will see it later, but in principle, it means that you can use your already available identifier login functionalities provided by your university to access the resource. So you don't have to send a mail, ask for permissions, etc. On top of this, CLARIN is also an ecosystem of persons, of centers that also share knowledge, not only data. Okay, and we will also see a little bit about this. For those who may have heard about the European Open Science Cloud, which is something that you may want to check out, it is a very big initiative that the European Commission has launched on open science. CLARIN is also, like many other ERICs and infrastructures in Europe, contributing to the creation of this great enterprise. So just to say something about the data and the communities, as you can see, CLARIN is not just for linguists, okay, even though it is an infrastructure that was created by researchers in the language resources and technologies community. It covers a broad set of data. You can see here a small list, but there's not many more, and of research communities. As I said, every time that you're dealing with text or with linguistic data, you can use CLARIN resources and facilities. CLARIN is a distributed infrastructure. Its headquarters are in the Netherlands, in Utrecht, but it is, you can see that it is composed of 21 member states nowadays, plus 3 observers. And you see it's not no longer only a European infrastructure, because one observer is South Africa. Most importantly, it is composed of 68 or over 68 data centers, so centers offering data or knowledge or knowledge. And 25 of these, and our own center, which I will talk about later in Pisa, is one of them, are certified. That is to say that if you put your data there, I mean, there has been independent authority that has certified that your data will be stored properly there. And all of these centers, as I said, offer also this federated login, so that you allow all researchers from member states to access with their credentials. A central harvesting, so that is to say, a place where you can actually search the content of all these centers from one center catalog, which I will illustrate a little bit later on. And also, these centers offer services. That is to say, not just tools that you download and use on your computer, but web services that you can use to process or explore linguistic and textual data that you do not need to install, but you can use online. So just a few examples of what national consortia look like, because we will delve a little bit into CLARIN Italy later on. I just show you CLARIN UK to begin with. So because I guess that most of you will be familiar with the English language and maybe with English corpora or resources. So CLARIN UK is still an observer, but it is also due to some misadventures such as Brexit, but maybe things are going to change in the near future. But they already offer a lot of interesting services and facilities. So first of all, you see that there is a section on data and tools. This is the tools that the data and tools that they offer. They also organize events, and then there's the latest addition to, for instance, the consortium, because Also, national consortia are composed of various national institutions. As to the resources, some of you may know or may have heard of some of them, depending also on the disciplines that you have studied or studying. The Lanx box is a very popular corpus query, online corpus query facility where you can find a lot of existing corpora for English and also for other languages. One of them is the British National Corpus, also very, very important. Then there's the CLIC corpus query system, which is more dedicated to literary studies. GATE is a tool for creating natural language processing pipelines. And finally, for instance, Hansard is a quite famous resource for social scientists and those who study political systems, because it is the collection of the proceedings of the British Parliament or the English Parliament from at least 2 centuries. So we have spoken about corpora so far, but of course, CLARIN is not just textual data in the form of corpora. There are a lot of types of corpora, but we have also lexicons, computational dictionaries, and natural language processing tools such as named entity recognizers, part-of-speech taggers, sentiment analysis tools, etc. A good way to start discovering what CLARIN can offer is the CLARIN Resus Families page, which allows you to explore in a systematic way what the various national consortia and the various languages offer in terms of for each family. So a little bit about technical infrastructure. Basically, as I said, many of these centers that compose the CLARIN network are data centers. So now some of you may have heard of the FAIR paradigm for open science. So this states that data should be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. How does CLARIN help to bring this about? If you have a data set, you can, such as for instance a corpus, you can deposit it in one of the CLARIN centers of your choice, maybe the one that is your national center or at your institution. By doing so, this dataset will be described with standardized set of metadata, which are interoperable with the CLARIN metadata. And also, this dataset will become accessible, that is to say, people can download it easily. But it is also important that it is findable. So how does this happen? The metadata of all these centers are collected. Actually, this happens twice a week using specific standardized protocols, and they become visible and searchable via the VLO, the CLARIN Virtual Language Observatory. You will perform a search on this VLO in a few minutes. And so that is to say, you do not need to know which center is hosting the data that you're looking for, or even you don't know the existence of a certain data set to be able to find it, because you will see that the VLO allows you to search using parameters, metadata to filter out per language, per resource type, per other parameters, etc. But then there is a reusability part. That is to say, once you have located some data on the VLO, it is also possible to activate the tools that the CLARIN centers make available on this data. So, for instance, you can locate a corpus in Italian, activate this other functionality service that is the CLARIN switchboard, and find all the systems, the tools that can process Italian textual data. They may be tools to annotate, for instance, the corpus, to annotate, to extract named entities, but they may also be tools to explore the data, to perform distant reading, etc. So just a small example to start seeing concretely how this happens. This Katharina Riesner has been a student in a master's program, and she finished her thesis, master thesis in 2016. Her topic was Barack Obama's identity building in healthcare, in the healthcare debate. In order to perform her research, she had to collect all speeches by Obama within a certain time frame to analyze especially how he discussed the topic of the Affordable Care Act, which is the one that is, I think, more commonly known as Obamacare. This corpus was the founding stone, the basis of her research. So now, according to the best practices of open science, not only her final thesis had to be published, but also this corpus, which she did. She actually deposited her corpus, which had been prepared, collected, made such that it was possible to, so transcribed so that it was possible to make advanced searches on this corpus, and it was deposited on the Lund University's Humanities Lab, which is a CLARIN center. So this is how the repository of language resources at the Lund Humanities Lab looks like. You can see that alongside the Barack Obama corpus by Riesner, there's a lot of other resources of different types. So when the corpus was deposited here, it was described with an appropriate set of metadata. It was preserved, so it is deposited and it is preserved long-term on the servers of this lab. And also you can see that it was given a handle. So this address that you see here, this is a persistent identifier. So if you go to this web page, you will not see the same address here on the top bar. But if you click on this address, you will always be sure to land on this page, no matter whether the Lund University's lab changes their set of addresses, maybe because they changed their server or their systems. So this is a persistent identifier, and this way of citing this resource, so if you do a research using the same corpus, you can do it, you can download it, and you can actually cite appropriately this data set like this. But you may say, how do I know about this corpus if I have no idea about this the topic, the research of Katharina, or of the existence of this Lund lab? And this is where the CLARIN VLO comes into play. So if you go to the Virtual Language Observatory, you can run a simple query typing Obama. You can do it now as I speak. And you will find the Barack Obama corpus with a link to the landing page of the record at Corpora Lund Lab in Sweden, because the Lund Lab is part of the CLARIN, the Swedish CLARIN consortium, national consortium, which in turn is transmitting its metadata to the VLO. So this is a little bit how it works. It is a way to make sure that it's a meta catalog that ensures the visibility of all language resources. Yeah, I'm checking every now and then the chat. If you have questions, as I said, do not hesitate to write. So another example from another national consortium. We are here now in the CLARIA Czech, Czech Republic CLARIN Consortium, and on the Lindat repository. You will see that different repositories and national consortia may use different software to create their repositories. So maybe the look and feel of different repositories will be different, but you have to be aware that the underlying paradigms, protocols for metadata are the same, and this is why it is possible to then harmonize, combine, and make all these records searchable from one single access point. So in this case, you see that, and also you will recognize that despite the differences, there are some similarities. That is to say, you still have authors, you still have a description. If you go to the actual record, you will see a much longer list of metadata. And you have the handle again. So the same principle, you can cite this resource, but this resource here, so the Lindat repository has corpora, has a lot of lexicons, has a lot of resources of all the sorts, but here I'm showing you a tool. Actually, it is a tool that some of you may know. It is called udpipe, and it is a trainable pipeline to tokenize, tag, lemmatize, and dependency parse textual data. It is quite state-of-the-art, and it is trained on the equally famous UD tree banks, which are also available from the same repository. So now you can download the udpipe source code and train for your own language. But at the same time, you can also do something else. You can process and activate, use actually udpipe as a web services using the pre-trained models for various languages that have been made available. So if you go to run, if you hit that button, you will be able to activate udpipe from a web interface, for instance, and process some data. But again, how about what if I don't know that this tool exists? If you go to the switchboard.clarin.eu page, you will find the catalog of web services and tools. So this is a catalog that contains all of the tools and web services that are offered by CLARIN partners. And among these, you will find also udpipe. And actually, for each of them, there is a short description allowing you to find out what it does. But actually, things are even nicer because we have seen there is a connection between the VLO and the switchboard. So now I think that I will illustrate with the first small exercise how you can search for a record and then activate tools to process this record. If there are no other questions before. Okay, so let me then go to the CLARIN VLO. So you can try it yourself. So you can find, you can actually type vlo.clarin.eu, but you can also go to the CLARIN EU webpage, and actually under Services, Tools and Data, you can find all the CLARIN services here, and the one that we want is the VLO, Virtual Language Observatory. So here is a short description, and you actually get to this, you go to the actual place here. So what I put in the exercise was to go to CLARIN, you find the VLO, and then the first set of questions is search for texts by Robert Louis Stevenson, find them, identify the format, and the place where they are hosted. So you can, I'm gonna do this exercise with you, but if you are if you wish to rush ahead you actually can. In fact, I may do something right now. Sorry. I may share these slides with all of you. I mean, there are no secret, so that you can actually. Let me put. Yeah, I think viewer should suffice, so that you can actually all of you get all the links without. You should be able to access all the links now, and this is going to be much easier for you. So, yeah, I see some of you appearing already. Great, excellent. So it's nice to see that you're all there because I have no feedback. So, where was I? Okay, no, not here. This is not yet where we want to go. So I searched for Stevenson. I perform a very simple query. Actually, you will see that you can filter out by language, by resource type. Actually, let me do it. Let me filter out by for textual data, and maybe in English. Okay. And here you have a set of records. Some of them are by Stevenson. Actually, there are also texts by other authors. For instance, Alan Stevenson, some of you may know, is, I think, Robert Louis Stevenson's uncle. And because his family, I mean, before he became a writer, but the previous generation, they were people who built lighthouses, actually. And this is a treaty that he wrote about. But the one we want is the famous Robert Louis Stevenson. So you can see a certain amount of records for texts that were written by him. So now here you can see already a small amount of metadata, and you can even access the record. Actually, I can do it, where it is located. And in fact, you could see it here as well, part of the OTA core collection. What is the OTA? You can see here. It is the Oxford Text Archive. This is the repository of CLARIN UK and in particular of the Oxford Bodleian Library. It contains really a treasure of records, especially for what concerns English literature, digital editions of the English texts, etc. So here we have, then we can also explore a little bit these texts here in the VLO, in particular the metadata. You see here, this is the core set of metadata, the name, the creator, the collection, the language, the subject, the national project. You can see that it is offered by CLARIN UK, the resource type, it is text, and the data provider, and of course, the persistent identifier. You have a lot of more metadata, which you may be able to see here. Okay, this is the, so to say, the actual set of metadata represented in this OLAC format. You know, most importantly, what is the license, okay, which is attribution share alike. So it means that you are actually allowed to use this resource, this text, as long as you cite the producers, and also you are not allowed to, you can only share the results of what you do under the same license. Now, most importantly, here you have the data, okay? And you have actually a lot of files, because there's a lot of metadata files, actually the same metadata represented also in various formats. Then you have the text represented in various formats. For instance, you can download the EPUB version of this text, of this novel, Treasure Island, so that you may also read it in digital format. And you can even download, sorry, let me just do it, the TEI version, okay, of this text. This is the digital edition. However, oh, don't tell me I have closed it. No, okay. However, you also have the TXT format, which is actually quite useful to, if you want to, for instance, send this text to a natural language processing system. And how are we going to do it? So this is the second part of the exercise, which we will actually use the switchboard, the CLARIN switchboard, to explore first the text with Voyant tools that you may be familiar with, the text exploration tool, and then process it with udpipe. So you see that next to this record, you have 3 dots. If you click on these 3 dots, you will be able to process your language resource with the switchboard. And this is what we're going to do. So we are actually sending this text to the switchboard. And the switchboard already knows from the metadata, this is text, plain text in English. And here is actually the link, because of course it is English, of a certain amount of tools that you can actually activate the switchboard, this text with. So we're going to actually do 2. So the first one is easy. Some of you may have already used Voyant, which is not actually developed by CLARIN, but this is the power also of interoperability, that it was possible also to plug in services that are provided by third parties in the CLARIN infrastructure just by aligning the metadata. So what happened here? I have activated this tool with my text. The text got sent directly to the Voyant tool, so I didn't have to go through the previous phase of importing my text, etc. And then, for those who know Voyant, you can use all of its functionalities in exactly the same way as usual. So for those who do not know Voyant, it is a very, very rich tool which allows you to explore your data in using several different functionalities, which I will not illustrate here, but you can see the word cloud. This is dividing documents in segments and showing you the changes in frequencies for each.
I'm interrupting you because I had prepared just a 10 minutes demo of Voyant. Just
okay, so great.
So I can do that at the end if they are interested.
Yeah, perfect. That's great. And this
Voyant is really one of the best tools to start approaching the exploration of text.
Exactly. So I will not go into the details because you will see later how this works, but be aware then that you can use Voyant from the VLO. And another tool that we are going to activate here, this is, as I said, a tool developed by our own, one of our own consortia in that CLARIN, so that is to say udpipe. udpipe has models in many languages, including English, and thus, so I activate udpipe on this text. This is the interface of udpipe, the one that you would access also by hitting run directly on the LINDAT project. So this is here where we are actually. You see that we went from the central services of the infrastructure here to one of the national consortia. And here is the input text already has been inputted. So the system has chosen the right model because from the metadata it knows which model it should be using. And it's also chosen the actions, tag and lemmatize. And I am actually talking because I am waiting to see the output. Because the text is a bit long, it's going to take a few seconds, but worst case scenario, I've already, I think, performed this. So maybe I'm going to show it to you. No. Sorry. Let's wait a second then and be patient.
While we wait, if you can go back to the page of all the tools available, when you have selected the text, I see there is a long list of tools available.
Yes.
Are they available for all the text? I mean, they are available for all the languages. No, each one has to know for each one.
So for each one, you will see a list of results that is maybe longer or shorter, depending on the language and also on the format. For instance, if I had selected the TI version, then there are only a subset of tools that right now actually offer TI support.
The name identity recognition, I was looking at the screen, that works for which languages? Because that might be useful for a project that you are having here.
I think that this one, I think this one is also available for Italian, but we should check. Normally, okay, now I've, of course,
German,
now
English,
it's
Spanish,
selected
French,
Italian, English because of the text, but yeah, in this case, for instance, you have to hit analyze to run. I guess maybe you're trying all at the same time, and that is why it's slowed down a bit. But okay, then I'll leave it to you to try it out for yourself. But you will see that the results will come out here, and it's going to be in this conedal format, so in columns, and you will have the text lemmatized, part-to-speech tagged, and with the dependency parsing performed. I will go back to it a little bit later to see when it's done. I think it might be that you haven't been trying at the same time with the same text, and this has slowed down things a little bit. So you see that this is a first set of tools, but actually I should say that there is a lot of tools also that are offered by national consortia that are not yet in the switchboard. So if you have projects, etc., and I will come back to this, you can also actually contact CLARIN and ask for help. And in fact, this is just to come to the next topic. CLARIN is also a knowledge sharing infrastructure. So sometimes you need also to know how to do things, not just tools to do it. And the first important thing within CLARIN is the center, this notion of knowledge centers. Not all centers are data centers. Some centers are there to provide knowledge. And what does this mean? It means that they are registered as CLARIN knowledge centers. They state what kind of expertise they have, and they can be contacted by researchers from the CLARIN infrastructure for information about their topic of expertise. Let me just show you very, very quickly to you how to access them. So if you go to, I should say that the CLARIN website is going to be changed very soon, but and it's gonna get a new look and feel, but the addresses we will try to keep them as permanent as possible. So for instance, this bit, you will always be able to access it from this address. So the knowledge centers will be here under knowledge centers, and you can search them using a lot of descriptors, but for instance, you have centers dedicated to an individual language, to different topics, etc. The one I had put in the example here is the ACE Knowledge Center. Oops, I think there is an ACE. Let me see if I can find it immediately. that it is, I think here, no. Okay, let me go for alphabetical order. So the first one actually is ACE. It is dedicated, for instance, to expertise concerning the creation of corpora for atypical communication. So you can have second language acquisition, first language acquisition, language disorders, development, and sign language. And what kind of expertise do they provide? Not only how to collect your data, what are the best standards, how to analyze it, etc., but also, and crucially in this case, expertise also on legal issues and critical data management, because you can understand that these are sensitive data. So you can actually have different types of expertise that you can access, among which also legal information. And by the way, CLARIN is also a standard, a legal committee, legal issues committee, which you can also address. Among other parts of this knowledge infrastructure, there's a lot of video lectures that you can access. In normal times, we organized workshops, and there were also funding for mobility grants, especially for young researchers. Another thing that we do together with the DARIA infrastructure is the Digital Humanities Course Registry, where you can find, for instance, all the programs in digital humanities in Europe and beyond. This is a very useful information tool to further explore possibilities for your further education. Now that in the situation where we are not being able to travel a lot, we've also organized CLARIN cafes, so virtual events that are even easier for you to attend. So you may also want to explore all what is under this page. And the resource families that are also quite popular if you want to start a research on a certain topic. So I will let you also explore the content of the knowledge infrastructure. It doesn't require specific notions from my part. I just want to conclude this bit before I pass on to CLARIN in Italy, saying that, of course, CLARIN is, as all the research infrastructures in Europe are, so to say, the backbone of the open science strategy in Europe. And as such, they promote the sharing and reuse of data using sustainable data registries, the integration of data sets, the adherence to the aforementioned FAIR principles, the promotion also of responsible data science. And as such, CLARIN is also an infrastructure that is strongly committed to the linguistic diversity in Europe and beyond, covering for more than 1,500 languages, tools for as many languages and different modalities. And yeah, let's not forget that you may not know it, but in Europe, SSH researchers are 500,000, and most of them use text data. So we need also infrastructures. So I think I'm going to now say a few things about CLARIN Italy. I'm not going to give you all the bureaucratic details. You can actually read them in the programmers in the presenters notes. But CLARIN became a member of CLARIN Italy became a member of CLARIN ERIC in 2015. So it's now 6 years. And so the ministry accepted to fund the participation of CLARIN in this infrastructure. And the Institute for Computational Linguistics and CNR have been appointed as the leaders of the national consortium, which is, and I will show you it later, composed of various institutions. Actually, here they are. And I might not even be completely updated. This image, I think, is old. So certainly the Sacro Cuore University in Milan has already joined. The membership has already been accepted, and I think that there's a few others that are in the process of joining. However, it's important to notice that these here are just centers that have accepted to collaborate with us in setting up a national CLARIN infrastructure. So they are providing, either they are providing a lot of data or maybe also expertise, etc. However, CLARINit is open to data and provides services to all of the researchers in Italy, because exactly of the fact that the national participation is sponsored by the ministry, so that it covers all researchers of the country. So CLARIN is for everyone. These here are people that are doing something extra to help us help you, so to say. In terms of the technological infrastructure, I mean, this is a lot of information here to process, but what you need to actually understand is just that there are two repositories, sorry. Oops. One is ILC for CLARIN, which I will show you in a minute. And the other one is the ERCC, which is a repository which is hosted at the URAC Academy in Bozen, and it is offering data for, especially for regional languages and also lexical resources. Thanks to various national infrastructures of lower levels, or from the computer science point of view, we can actually provide our services, so in the sense that we are provided storage and also single sign-on facilities by SINECA and by GAR, and which are also then connected to other European initiatives in a way that allows also us to connect to the CLARIN infrastructure. And then through CLARINit, these two centers are also part of CLARIN, and they are connecting to all the other national consortia. Just a little bit about the CLARINit research topics. We offer, of course, first and foremost, resources and tools for the Italian language. Given what you heard this morning, also you may be interesting to know that there's a certain amount of data sets that you find on our repository that are represented using paradigms drawn from the semantic web. So, for instance, lexical data sets in the linked open data format, corpora, and also we offer natural language processing tools that are offered and integrated in this WebList tool, which is also available in the switchboard. We have also other languages, and we have various modalities. For instance, we are kind of specialized in speech archives and oral archives. For instance, ethnomusicological archives as well. We are also strong on digital classics, and you can see here some of the resources, but you can explore them directly on the repository, which I will show you in a minute. And here we are. So this is the webpage of the ILC for CLARIN Center. So actually, let me show you more properly how to get there. So this is the page of the National Consortium, okay, where you can find all the members, etc. This is more like an informative page. But if you go on centers, you will find the two centers, and we will be able to access them. And this is ours, okay, the ILC for CLARIN, hosted at CNR. Okay, I don't know why it's not accepting my. Anyway, so you can see that there's a lot of also information about this center in particular, which is a B center, and you can see that it's also somewhere you will be able to see the certification for the center. And here is the repository. For some reason, it's not letting me. Something is weird. Maybe it's my browser. Anyway, so by clicking on repository, you can access the actual repository. So notice that, of course, this is where you can browse our data, but they are also visible on the VLO. So you can search them here or on the VLO. This is, so I have suggested a few exercises here to, for instance, you can start finding some records. You can try to see what are the languages that are most represented. You will see that we offer also data in Arabic, and you may want to see what kind of data they are. So let me just, for instance, start browsing a little bit. We have a lot of resources for Latin, and you will actually find out why if you click on them, because you will see that most of them come from the SALIM, Archivio della Latinità del Medioevo. This is a large archive that comes from one of our partners. So if you open one record, for instance, you will see the list of all metadata, and you will also find out about, you will also know that this publisher is the ALIM. It is a project of University of Siena, and to know more about it, which is one of our partners, you can open the page. So this record is just a metadata record. So the data are not stored here. Even if you check the full record, you will not see the data on our repository yet. Okay. So nevertheless, this is still visible on the VLO if you search for it. However, there are also datasets such as the coffee wordnet, which are stored entirely in our. So this is the coffee wordnet interface, but let me search for the actual resource or any wordnet. One. Yeah, opened ancient wordnet, here it is. These are the authors, Boschetti, Del Grate, and Yakov. This is its handle, and this is the description. It is actually the open ancient Greek wordnet containing a certain amount of syntax, lemmas, and senses, and you can actually download it here with its appropriate license. So, yeah, just one last thing I can show you. It's the Arabic records, as I have put it in the exercises. Okay, this, I think, sorry, because I shouldn't be searching for wordnets. You have actually 23 Arabic resources, and most of them actually are individual letters, the digital edition of individual letters of the Al-Qamus al-Muhit, which is a historical and very famous dictionary of the Arabic language, which has been represented in XML format here, and it's also available. So you see how it works. All of these resources, you can search for them in the VLO, and you will be also finding them. So they are visible not only to those who know of the existence of our repository, but to everyone. So I think that so far everything should be clear, hopefully. There are also other services. For instance, you can explore using web interfaces, resources such as Ital WordNet or RAN and natural language processing pipelines. And of course, the CLARIN IT National Consortium is also the interface for you towards for our national community to actually make the best use possible of the CLARIN opportunities. So, for instance, you can address the national coordinator for if you have a workshop idea, if you want to ask for funding for this workshop, or even, for instance, for mobility grants, especially for young researchers. When we will be able to travel again, it is possible to ask for funding to visit an existing CLARIN center in another country. You can ask support to organize virtual events, and very soon we will also have, I mean, there's a lot of training materials already on the CLARIN webpage, but soon we will have actually a training suite, so a page that will be dedicated to training, where it's going to be very, very easy to find training materials for a given subject. And please check the funding opportunities page. And one interesting opportunity that you have is this resource families project funding. So you have seen that there's several resource families, for instance, historical corpora, say, but not all languages may be represented in that resource family. There may be gaps. So if you have a plan, for instance, to produce a historical corpus for a given language, and you see that it does not exist in the resource families yet, you can go to the resource families project funding page, read the call, and write an application to obtain a small funding to actually fill this gap. It is important when you actually write any type of application for project funding within CLARIN to let your national coordinator, in this case Monica Monachini, know, because of course she's going to support this application when it is discussed in the National Coordinators Forum. And one of these projects has recently been obtained by actually our institute, CNR, within the context of this Parliament project. It is a large project. You can go to the project web page and check it out, because one of the important resource families that we have is the parliamentary corpora, okay, resource families. And first of all, four Eastern European languages have started by creating, using, of course, the available transcriptions of their national parliaments. They have produced 4 comparable corpora. What does comparable mean? They have prepared this data in such a way, using actually a specific type of TEI, which is called TEI Parla format, TEI Parla format, in such a way that all the data and metadata were aligned, and that these corpora were actually searchable through one common interface, which you can see here. It is no sketch engine, okay? You can create subcorpora, for instance, searching for a specific term, or compare male to female speakers, check out for specific roles, political party, etc. So it's not what comes out of the parliament in terms of transcripts. There's a lot of work, and also linguistic annotation that you can use. So it takes a lot of time to prepare the corpora in such a way. And now 17 other parliaments have been added with this specific funding. And this includes the Senato della Repubblica Italiana, which we did at ILC in collaboration also with another institute of CNR, Istituto di Studi Giuridici. So this is the last bit that I want to show you before we close we wrap up for lunch. And it is a small exploration of the Parliament corpus. Why? Actually, the Parliament, the second batch of Parliament corpora, they came out during the COVID period. So what they did, they asked us to prepare 2 data sets. One of the pre-COVID time, 2015 to 2019, and one for the COVID year, so the year 2000, we didn't know that 2001 was going to be a COVID year too, but we were optimistic back then. So we stopped the year 2000, but I guess we will be adding years to the COVID corpus, unfortunately. So without further ado, let me show you something about the Italian Parliament corpus, but you can also do the same queries and searches on other corpora that are more or less structured in the same way. So all Parliament corpora are stored here. This is CLARIN Slovenia, so yet another of our very active consortia. And you see, they have a lot of other corpora, not only the Parliament ones. Some of them, most of them, of course, are in Slovenian, but not only. And here, among the Parliament ones, is Parliament IT 2.0. Okay, there is no need, in this case, you see, it's very straightforward. It's an open, okay. I guess that a lot of you are trying because it's a bit slower than usual. So this is the corpus information page. All of them look like the same. You can see here how many tokens, how many words, how many sentences, paragraphs, and documents. The corpus description with a lot of documentation. And here you can also see, for instance, all the levels of linguistic annotation. So there you can actually access the word, the normalized form, the lemma, the part of speech, the various dependency parsing elements, etc. And another thing here, you have a lot of attributes, okay? For instance, you can see that you can access for each for instance, each individual sitting, you can see what was the agenda. You can also have information about the session, the term, etc., etc. So this is at textual level, okay? At the P level, so for instance, the sentence level, you have the sentence ID, the language, etc. Why is the language at sentence ID or at PID? Actually, because we have the Belgians among us who are a bilingual parliament. So in some cases, you will have parliaments in which more than one language is spoken. And here is another element. So you have the speaker, all the speaker's information. Okay, so you can use all of this information to actually create subcorpora. And we are not going to create subcorpora today because this is not actually a course to learn how to use Sketch Engine. No Sketch Engine is, by the way, the open source, freely available version of Sketch Engine, the Sketch Engine software that you have probably used already. So here we are actually creating a word list on the whole corpus for the Italian Parliament. You can hit make without changing any parameters and you will get the usual thing. So you see that, of course, when you create a word list, I mean, the linguist or corpus linguist among you will know that when you create a word list, it's maybe not super informative because the first most frequent words are the same in any given corpus, no matter what the topic, etc. So we can actually do something a little bit more clever. That is to say, we can use the partitions that we have already created and see, okay, what is the word list for the COVID corpus? And here you have it. Another thing you can do is to say, okay, let me just search for lemmas, okay, instead of for inflected forms. It's going to take a little bit longer, I guess, but you get the idea. So you see already it's a little bit less confusing. But there is another thing that you can do. And in fact, what you can do is to compare, what you would want to do is to compare the COVID time, the COVID era, to the pre-COVID era. Okay, and you see that we have also a reference corpus alongside the reference partition alongside the COVID partition. And here it's this option, keywords that you are going to use. Those who have also used maybe AntConc probably recognize that this is the same trick. So we are going to create two word lists actually here. The word list for the COVID corpus and the word list for the reference corpus. And the reference corpus frequencies are going to be compared to the COVID corpus frequencies of words or lemmas. And what is going on here? We will actually try to find out what are the words that are overrepresented, whose frequencies are much higher in the COVID corpus and the reference corpus. Notice that we are always talking about relative frequencies, because the reference corpus, which spans over 4 years, is bigger than the COVID corpus, which is just 1 year. Okay, so this is what you're going to do. You can put either lemma or word here. You will have COVID subcorpus as your corpus of study, and you will select the keyword option here using the reference partition. There are other options here that we are not going to touch. Okay, so I guess that what we are seeing here is a little bit more interesting. You can see that the first word that comes out, so that is to say the one that was most used, most overused with respect to the pre-COVID period, was pandemia, okay? COVID-19, COVID, coronavirus, lockdown. And actually, you can go to the British Parliament corpus, and you will see, I don't think it's very visible here, but you can do the same thing, and you will see that the first 4 words, apart from the fact that it's not pandemia, it's pandemics, are exactly the same, okay? So in some sense, there is a similarity there. But if you then descend a little bit down the list, you will see there are differences. For instance, we have been discussing a lot about school, because this is Azzolino was the then Minister of Education. There have been also insertions of other events other than COVID, and this is also interesting. In other countries, I have to say that you can see that scientific issues have been discussed maybe a little bit more, and this I think is something that tells us about differences between also the level of competence in parliaments as concerns scientific issues. So you can do this, and maybe the last thing you can do is to, because I have prepared these partitions, is you can compare also another subset. So you have here COVID-F and COVID-M. These are the speeches of the male and female members of parliament that have been separated out. So you can compare. First of all, you may also want to have information about this partition, okay? And already you can see that, of course, female in Italian parliament are less and they speak less than their male counterpart, okay? 50% of the male counterpart. And it is very interesting to see what they talked about, especially during the COVID time. And to do this, I'm going to put COVID-F here and COVID-M as a reference corpus. And I don't know if you can, all of you can read Italian, but you will see that there's a lot of discussions about violence, okay, about violence against women. And to be honest, when I ran the first time this query, I did not expect. I mean, I was expecting maybe them to talk more about school, etc. And you get here the idea. I mean, there's this perception of the COVID time as a time where women were locked up in their houses and being subjected to violence. I mean, this is maybe an exaggerated perception, but this is exactly what comes out of the corpus. Okay, so this issue has been very, very strongly discussed in Parliament. Okay, of course, there's a lot of other things that you can do. For instance, compare. I try to do tests comparing the female members of Parliament of the opposition and of the government, parties supporting the government. This is something you can do pre and post-COVID. And interesting things come out. For instance, the amount of speech by female MPs has diminished. So it was low already, but it diminished with the pandemics. So male spoke more during the pandemics in Parliament than female. But strangely enough, there are differences between female members of Parliament of the opposition and of the government supporting parties. So you can, and of course, it is difficult then to draw conclusions just on the basis of this. It is necessary then to go back to the text and explore the topic, check all the different options. And of course, not only linguists or computational linguists such as me will take a look at this corpus. There are politologists, social scientists who are actually working on this, and they have the competence to maybe find out interesting phenomena. So this is a very multidisciplinary endeavor. So I guess that we will have time to maybe if there are questions on this to come back to it. And now, just the most important things that you have to retain is that CLARIN is there to help you with your research. So you can visit, especially this page, CLARIN for Researchers. If you have other ideas, you can also participate in the virtual events. Actually, on Monday, the 31st, let me show you online. Okay. So there are these CLARIN cafes, which actually I organize every month, and the CLARIN infrastructure organizes every month. They are recorded, so you can check out also the recordings of previous events. And next Monday, there is a cafe co-hosted by myself and Andreas Witt on multilinguality issues. And I think it's going to be interesting for you, at least the linguists among you. So this, and finally, another interesting thing you can check out is the Tour de CLARIN. I haven't spoken about it so much, but it's very nice. There are very nice blog posts that illustrate various centers, national consortia, so you can find out about other tools that have not been mentioned today. The tutorials that I've used today, the little exercises, are also drawn from this tutorial here, which is mostly based on CLARIN stuff. And finally, I suggest you to subscribe to the CLARIN newsletter. It's coming out every month and it's full of good, useful information. You follow us on Twitter, both CLARIN Eric and CLARIN It, and this is also the references for CLARIN It. So I think I'm going to stop here and ask you if you have any questions or remarks.
Okay, thank you very much. And it has been very informative. even not even, also for me, I was not aware of that list of tools available that you can easily access from there. So no, there are no questions, curiosity. In any case, you have all the links. So as Francesca was saying, if you have further questions, I'm speaking for you. Feel free to write a mail to Francesca.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is the idea. Now, again, since we still have 10 minutes, but this is optional if you want. I had really prepared a very, not really a demo, a glimpse, an overview of the Voyant tools. And I would like to know from, from you, who of you have already used the Voyant? Raise your hand so that I can see the hands on the participant list. Some of you already have used the Voyant, because this is really interesting if you have been dealing with languages. No. I see no hand. So let me go. What I will do then, I will then switch my screen so that you can see my screen. And I will share this one. So you see now the Voyant screen. Somebody say yes.
Yes, it's visible.
Yes. So now, okay, you go here. And as you, now, first of all, Voyant is a set of tools to do natural language processing. It has a number of languages and it has a number of tools. It is really well done, because this is the home page, and the idea is that you can put here your text, or you can provide here a link to some text. And if you do not know exactly what to do, you can always click over here, because it has a very, very well done help me facilities. So I say, okay, this is not enough, I do not understand here. If you go to this site, you can follow, and then you can click for more help. It will open a new window, and here you can see you have the index. So you see how now, since we were at the beginning, it is opening on the how do you create a corpus, meaning how do you give to Voyant the text that you wanted to process. And then, as you can see, you have an impressive number of tools, let me say, to process and to elaborate your text. So let's get back here and say, okay, I know what to do. And what we will do, we will upload some text from some files that I have on my disk. And what I'm going to show is, has been prepared. This is courtesy of Rachele Sprugnoli. I don't know if you know her. She has prepared this short demo. And the text that I'm going to use is just a few chapters of the Promessi Sposi. For the Italian people, you know that Promessi Sposi is the Bible, meaning that everybody has to learn Promessi Sposi literature when in the high school. So this is what we are doing, and I will click on this one. I don't know if you see this one. So now I am loading for the first 4 chapters of the Promessi Sposi, and this is the first page of Voyant, in which you have 5 windows with 5 tools: the Cirrus, the Reader, the Trends, the Context, and the Summary. And here you have the Cirrus is the very popular word cloud, and you can see, for example, that this is just, and this is the Reader. So here you can see the text that we uploaded, and since we uploaded just 4 chapters, which were actually 4 files, 4 different files, you can see here the 4 files, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the size of the square, of the rectangle, gives you more or less an idea of the size. So the first one is the introduction, very short. This one is the bigger one. And moving the cursor, you can move to moving. Yes, this one should be possible. Yes, now you click. and you can position yourself on the text in any position. This is the word cloud. This is also, you can tailor the number of words that you include. So if you include more numbers, this is all. And if you go to the minimum, this one below is the statistics. So how big is the document, the density, the average word per sentence. What is interesting here is that you have the most frequent words in the corpus. And here you see that we have some normal words like quel, egli. In Italian, this is this or he. And you start having also some, let me say, more significant word like Renzo. And here you have, for each document, you have the top 5 words that are the most relevant for identifying this document according to the so-called TF-IDF measures. So that means that the words here are the most frequent in document number 1, but at the same time, they are the less frequent over the whole collection of the 4 documents. This is the idea behind these distinctive words. Here you have what you know are the concordances, meaning this is taking the most common word, which is somehow meaningless because you have too many. So, for example, however, we can write here Renzo, which is very popular. And if we say yes, okay, go, it will recompute all the concordances for Renzo. And they are divided by document. So there is no Renzo in document A. There are 2 of them in document B. And then most of them are in the document C, which clearly is when Renzo comes into play into the novel. And then you have also something in the D4. Now, the relevance of this word, you can also see in this graph the trends, because this is showing, the graphs are showing the trends of these 5 most frequent words. So if I click on Renzo, however, no, that is the other way around. If I click on Renzo here, here, you see, now I can see very well what we are seeing in the concordances, that there is no Renzo in the first document, and it starts being something in the second one, then it is very popular in the third one, and some less popular in the fourth one. So now this is just to give you a glimpse, an idea of what you can do with Voyant. And in each section, in each pane, if you go here and you click on this one, you can, wait, no, this one, I was clicking this one here. No, is here, this one. Okay, you can load in each page any one of the document of the tools that you had seen before. The last piece that I wanted to show is, but just for the sake of it, was instead this notion of the stop words. You know what stop words are? All the words that are common, meaning they have no real semantic meaning. So it's like egli, now in this here. This one here, egli and quel. So are the words that really do not have too much meaning in the things, in the corpus. So what you can do, and this is what I wanted to do, is for each tool, you can define the options for this tool. So for the tools for the Sirius, this is the set of options, and we see them in a moment. For this one, is the set of options that you can select here, this one. And you have defined which are the auto-detect and so on. For this one, you have also the thing that you can auto-detect and all the rest. The thing of the stop word that I wanted to show is this one. I can say, so instead of auto-detect, I will say select the language, Italian. Okay, then I want to see what is the list of the stop words in Italian. This is this one. Okay, I like this one. Now I do have a list on my own, for example. So what I can do, I go now. You do not see on the screen, but what I'm doing is that I'm going on my own, which I do not find because it must be somewhere here. I found it. So what I'm doing is that I'm going to my own disk. I'm looking for my own list of stop words. I copy that I copy them, and I come back here. And I delete all of those. And I can just paste here my own. So you can see that this is a different word list. So I say, okay, save, confirm. And now you will see that this is changing because now you are having eliminated all stop words. For example, Renzo becomes the first one, and then you have Lucia, which is the next character, and then Abbondio. And of course, if you keep, however, increasing the number, then you can see even more what are the all things. So this is basically, I stop here. It is now 12:30. But I just wanted to make sure that this is when you have to do some kind of statistics or study over the text, this is really, really convenient. And just, as I was saying, I am a Sunday driver, un guidatore della domenica for Wayand, because I use it really once in a while. But I mean, if you start using it, it is really, really useful. And in my view, it's also worth looking because it is really very well documented. So if you go to Sirius, the one that we are looking, and you start having an overview of what it is, how you use the options, and so on. And it is all explained. And then the last thing that I wanted to show you, because this is interesting, is that everything is online. Meaning, so the point is, okay, but now that I've not yet finished my job, still I have to know, how can I save what I've been doing? Now, you can do that here with this link. If you see, when I click here, it says, okay, export. So if I click on export a URL for this view of this data, now it is just opened, as you see, another window, another tab, which is, I mean, it's exactly the same that I see here, but it's opening another one. And here, what I have is this URL, I mean, this link that I can copy. So I make a control. At this point, I can close Wayand completely, meaning I close this one. I close the instructions, but I even close this one here. And now, if I start with a new tab and I paste here what I just copied, and I'm exactly back to where I was when I left the day before. So this is really interesting, I think. And that's all. If you have questions or other things, you are mostly welcome. I'm going to stop the sharing of the screen. If I can find, here it is. Okay. Okay. I think everybody is still there, but I would say that at this point, we can stop for for lunch. There is a comment saying that it is really an interesting tool. It is really, and as I was saying, it is all, I mean, free, really well done, well maintained. It has a number of languages, and you can add your own, I mean, you can contribute to this tool. So it is definitely worth knowing its existence. And you don't really need too many skills. I mean, you do not have to do anything in programming or other things. Because, so this is my suggestion. If there are no questions, I see there is a message, which is it's Giulia Cardoni. Thank you very much. And okay, if there are no other questions, I would say have a good lunch. Thank you, Francesca, again for your participation. I will wave my hands also. You see me on the side because again the camera is on my portable PC, which is on my left, but I am using the bigger screen, which is on my desk. So that's why you have this view of me. And see you at 2 o'clock when Enrica will be back. And now I will stop the registration. So let me get here and stop the registration. Interrompi registrazione. Here. Interrompi.